I'm Howard Nema of We Are Change Connecticut, and we'll be getting started in just a moment. I want to thank Bobby K at Project Freedom Radio for helping to get the broadcast out while the Informed Radio servers are down. Thank you, Bobby K.
We are change, exposing the collectivist global elite's Malthusian quest for a new world order. A one-world dictatorial government where all aspects of human life are under their control. Truth Talk Radio, where news the mainstream media ignores is the top story and your voice is heard.
We Are Change Connecticut, Saturdays 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on TruthBroadcastNetwork.com. Audio simulcast on Project Freedom Radio, ProjectFreedom.ws, and InformedRadio.com.
Good evening, I'm Howard Nema, and you are watching We Are Change Connecticut on Project Freedom Radio and TruthBroadcastNetwork.com. Sorry, a little out of breath again. Trying to get the camera set up here properly. All right. A little behind the time here. Sorry. Apologize for the delay. And just want to give a thanks to Harry Link for helping me get the truth out here with our network. And, of course, thanks to Bobby K. A lot of news to go over today. No guests on this particular broadcast. And Vinny Bdatruth is going to be welcoming his newborn baby in just a couple of days. So he's not going to be with us. But next week we are going to have a great show with Jonathan Gray. One of my favorite shows that we've done so far was with Jonathan Gray. And he'll be back again to go into the ancients and information regarding ancient civilizations and ancient secrets, occulted information. It's always impressive. The last time I really enjoyed it. So moving forward, there's quite a bit of news going on right now that we have. And I certainly wanted to go over some of the strange, crazy things in this world. I guess freedom of speech is obviously not free, because not worldwide, and even in America, we know that we get say certain things, or you get into a certain area, there's attacks and repercussions. But the band Pussy Riot gets 2 years in jail for basically calling Putin an evil puppet, which is what he is. And they're putting him in jails. That's right, 3 punk rock style activists who briefly took over a cathedral in a raucous prayer for deliverance from Vladimir Putin were sentenced to 2 years in prison for hooliganism. Protesters from Moscow to New York and musicians including Madonna and Paul McCartney condemned the prosecution of the 3 women, members of the band called Pussy Riot. Several countries, including the United States and even some Kremlin loyalists, decried the verdict. Nadezhda Tokalenokova, 22, Maria Akalina, 24, and Yadarisha Samutsevich, 30, were arrested in March after performing a punk prayer in the Christ of Savior Cathedral, dancing and high-kicking as they called on the Virgin Mary to save Russia from Putin, who was elected to a 3rd term as Russia's president 2 weeks later. Judge Marina Serova ruled that the band members had committed hooliganism driven by religious hatred. Oh, really? Does that sound like religious hatred? My God. She rejected the women's arguments that they were protesting the Russian Orthodox Church's support for Putin and didn't intend to offend religious believers. Putin itself had said the band members shouldn't be judged too harshly. Oh, that's nice. Creating expectations that they could be sentenced to time served and freed in the courtroom. This, however, would have left the impression that Putin had bowed to public pressure, something he has resisted throughout his career. Well, yes, that's just a bad situation, and this is what those the band looks like. The Pussy Riot, interesting name for a band. They look like they're, just a bunch of young girls want to speak their mind, but when you speak your mind, it is a crime. Even here. It's amazing these countries all say, oh, with all the freedom of speech. But what about us? What about what happens here when we talk about the freedom of speech? I mean, it's subjugated to so much control. Even the opinions that we have. I have people that are messaging different people. Some guy from the American Free Press wants to interview me about an interview that I did with Janet Phelan and Barbara Hartwell regarding Nazi infiltration into the Truth movement, and that's sort of strange. Came out of nowhere. Jim from We Are Change Connecticut alerted me to that. Speaking of We Are Change Connecticut, the band As Your Soul is again moving forward with some efforts with We Are Change Connecticut to raise awareness. We're doing a benefit for a cancer victim Sunday the 9th of September at the Winchester Restaurant from 1 to 5 p.m. To support Aldo, our friend Aldo, who is suffering from cancer. All right, many things have happened, as I said, this week. Romney, Obama, whatever you want to call this other puppet that's running for president. He supports an order to the Federal Reserve, which, again, how they control the thought processes and trying to get everybody to sway this way and that way, as if he would actually go through with that when the time comes. If it came, who knows what's going to happen with this election. It's just nightmarish because the whole election season is starting to cook up, and all the lies and mudslinging is going to start, and all the bullshit. And these people aren't going to give you change, ladies and gentlemen. None of these people are going to give you change. You're not going to get change from Romney. You're not going to get a change from Obama. The really only change that there could be that's on the ticket for president, and they're still trying to mess him up in Pennsylvania, is Gary Johnson, who's a libertarian, and I'm a libertarian. It's really the best way to be. Have your individual rights and liberties and freedoms protected, not for the best of the collective or whatever. These other socialist, eco-fascist, communist agendas through the United Nations and all this other collectivism. It's such a very complex thing to understand, so it's difficult for people to wrap their brain around it. But on Wednesday we had Wayne Costi of Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, who was in Torrington, Connecticut, in Torrington City Hall auditorium, and gave a demonstration of the film 9/11 Explosive Evidence, The Experts Speak Out, the full screening of the final cut, which was excellent and well attended. The room was filled, ladies and gentlemen. It was good to see that in a wide demographic from young to old, and that was nice as well. People opening their minds to the truth about 9/11 and the fraud about how what was reported is just not possible. Now, in this country, we have freedom of speech. Like I said, we were able to do that seminar that Wayne conducted. I do this broadcast, but the light that it gets and the way that it is utilized is controlled. We invited the press. Nobody came. Blurbs in a little small, tiny blurb, so they cannot say that they're not covering it, but there's no light on this issue. So the people have to make the light. The people have to raise their voices, as we're doing when 9/11 is coming up. truthbroadcastnetwork.com. We'll be down there with Harry Link and myself. We'll be at 9/11, waking the people up, explaining to the truth about what really happened, and getting some awareness, and maybe some attention. I mean, the media just loves to ignore it and call it these crazy conspiracy theorists, but everything that we keep targeting these crazy conspiracy theorists after time come to be, well, yeah, that's right, that's true. And well, did you ever think that we might have been right all along? We're not crazy conspiracy theorists. We are trying to expose the truth of this establishment-run mafia that is controlling our political system, the media, so that they can manipulate public opinion, so they can continue to rob, steal, and murder, and start wars, and collectivize, and put small business out, take away the jobs in America, deindustrialize this country and others to a leveling off of the world. Again, a Gaia religion, a one world religion, the breaking down of the society through religious and moral decay, less and less people having religious faith. Now, again, I'm against organized religion. I've said that almost every show. But faith and God is important. To leave God, to be abandoned from God, is what they seek. And to, create things that you care about and give money to and tithe for the earth. And all of these other controlled New Agey, New World Order agendas. And that's where we are. I mean, this is what we're under. So when Obama, I should say Robomney, because when I'm talking about Romney, I'm going to call him either Robama or Robomney. So when Robomney supports an order to the Federal Reserve, you got to wonder what that really means. I mean, does it really matter? I mean, I support it. Well, let's see what happens. It just seems to be consistently brought up and dropped. And the people have to demand it. And they just got to keep doing it. We just got to keep chipping away that stone. I think that it's terrible that all the things that Obama said he would do, audit the Fed, none of it happened. He was talking about that too. He said anything that he'll say and sell you anything that you want to hear. Like Peter Finch said in Network, we will give you anything, any shit. We will sell you any shit that we want and make you want it. It's basically that way. They'll sell you any shit and you'll want to buy it. It's really awful. Swing state voters say that they are no better off now than they were in 2008. So back to the same drawing board. Nothing's really improved or changed. So we're still in this microcosm of decaying economy with slow growth, and we just have to be positive, and everything else is great, and the tax system is all messed up. The way that the loopholes that the wealthy, uber wealthy use, and then they actually point themselves, like Warren Buffett pointing his finger at himself. I don't pay no taxes. Look, I should pay more taxes. It's a joke. It's a lie. They're not trying to bring this about. They're not saying tax. You tax me more, it'll be okay. They could tax these people 85%, and there still would be. This is endless money. You cannot fix this. It is fraudulent debt, and we have to get the American people to understand that this debt is fraudulent, that it needs to be erased, and the entire world economy just has to start from scratch. Not this New World Order thing. No, we just got to get off this Federal Reserve system, this criminal, Ponzi scheme. People in Connecticut here, a couple of women were getting together, collecting $5,000 from other women, having dinner parties and having a good time. And then when they brought in, I think it was, a certain amount of people, then they would get like $50,000 or $10,000, which is a Ponzi scheme, and they're in trouble. They're going to jail, you know. This is what the Federal Reserve does, but it's even worse because they're creating the money out of nothing and leaving the people with debt made out of thin air, money out of thin air. And then the wasteful spending to bring us further and further into debt. You know, I keep thinking about it. It's like I should show the clip that I have with, I think I will because it's so eloquent. Again, I'm a big supporter of the John Birch Society, so the jbs.org. I'll make a note about this too. There's an upcoming event on Tuesday, September 18th for those that are in Connecticut and Southington, Connecticut. It's a $10 admission at the Holiday Inn Express. Who's Controlling American Policy? It's given by James Perloff, who is the author of Shadows of Power, an expose of private influence on American foreign policy. Sold over 100,000 copies. He's written a whole bunch of other books, and he's been a contributor to the New American newspaper or magazine, which is the John Birch Society magazine, since 1986. So anybody that wants to get involved with that, it is actually something you need to be a member. So I'm going to, again, go to johnbirchsociety.org. You can join your membership. Let's see, there's also advertisements. You can advertise on the event. And if you'd like to do this, you can get involved by going to johngbs.org. And if you're not in Connecticut and you want to get involved and understand a little bit more about what the John Birch Society does, supporting freedom, liberty, the Constitution, and exposing the New World Order agenda, then just go to jbs.org, and there's certainly in your area there's going to be some chapter. Okay? Please do that. Now, again, going back to this John Birch Society, I think Robert Welch did put it best. In 1962, I have a clip here that I think it's just so important that I play it because I'm just thinking about it, and it is actually given. It's the 10, all of these ways that they're enslaving us, and people were like laughing at him, you know, laughing at the guy because after all, in 1962, what he was saying was like sort of radical. But what is so important is that it really wasn't radical because it's come to pass.
A part of that plan, of course, is to induce the gradual surrender of American sovereignty, piece by piece and step by step, to various international organizations, of which the United Nations is the outstanding but far from the only example. Now, here are the aims for the United States. 1, greatly expanded government spending for every conceivable means of getting rid of ever larger sums of American money as wastefully as possible. 2, higher and then much higher taxes. 3, an increasingly unbalanced budget despite the higher taxes. 4, wild inflation of our currency. 5, government controls of prices, wages, and materials, supposedly to combat inflation. 6, greatly increased socialistic controls over every operation of our economy and every activity of our daily lives. This is to be accompanied, naturally and automatically, by a correspondingly huge increase in the size of our bureaucracy and in both the cost and reach of our domestic government. 7, far more centralization of power in Washington and the practical elimination of our state lines. There is a many-faceted drive at work to have our state lines eventually mean no more within the nation than our county lines do now within the states. 8, the steady advance of federal aid to and control over our educational system, leading to complete federalization of our public education. 9,
I mean, it's unbelievable.
A constant hammering into the...
Can you believe this? I mean, it is unbelievable how accurate things have changed. And this was in 62. Look what's happened. Everything that Robert Welch is saying has come to pass. And even worse, what about our growing debt? In 1962, it was in the hundreds of millions of dollars. By the time, I should play another speech by Larry McDonald, another one on the economy, when it was nearing in on nearly $1 trillion. Can you imagine if we only had $1 trillion of debt to deal with? We have $16 trillion. This is how they operate the New World Order, and this is a great breakdown. So I'm not going to interrupt the rest of the speech. I'm sorry about that, but couldn't help it, you know.
American consciousness of the horror of modern warfare, the beauties and the absolute necessity of peace. Peace always on communist terms, of course. And 10, the consequent willingness of the American people to allow the steps of appeasement by our government which amount to a piecemeal surrender of the rest of the free world and of the United States itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's slowly been happening, and now we have all these jobs going away. We got 3 million kids a year getting out of college, but there's no jobs. On and on every year. And they have debts, and they can't pay their college debt. And this has all been planned. This is a very, very craftily, surgically designed operation that has, to this point, certainly reached, I think, all of the points that were just brought up here with the Robert Welch speech. And let me see, I had a couple other things I was just thinking of. I love just doing things off the cuff. I mean, this is the way it is. Got a bunch of news to go over, but I'm going on a bit of a tangent, so bear with me a second. I wanted to see if I think I have it right here. I was trying to find, I guess not. Maybe it's in my library. Trying to find the speech by Larry McDonald. I mean, it's on the internet. I can just go there, but I thought I had it right on my drive. Yeah, I don't see it. Anyway, so again, Larry McDonald was killed aboard Flight 007, the Korean airliner that was shot down by the Soviets. He was the head of the John Birch Society, raising a lot of information about the Rockefellers, talking like on the news and saying things. And shortly after, he happened to be on the plane that got shot down. He said it on Crossfire. It's a famous interview in 1983, where we teetered on the edge of war once again. This Cold War, this contrived, controlled Machiavellian deception, which then becomes the war on terror. We have the war on terror now, which is the next Machiavellian control. Very good, because now there's no clear enemies, because the enemies could be anywhere. There's no countries, they're people, they're just radicals, radical Muslims, and all this other nonsense. And things are not better. I mean, they haven't changed. They're getting worse. The majority of voters in key 2012 election states, as I said earlier, feel that they're no better off than they were in 2008. And it's, again, back to the point where, what did you do? What's the change? Well, the change was more regulations, more taking away of rights, more executive orders that affected the freedom and prosperity of this nation. Bringing in communism, I mean, Obamacare, oh my God, I mean, it's just endless. What has happened in the last 4 years? What hasn't happened? The war, the shifting of the chessboard pieces, I'm going to bring the troops home, but now they can't leave till 2014, and all this other nonsense, and meanwhile they're shifting troops to other regions, and Israel has got troops, and we have troops by Syria, and they're beating the drums of war again, ladies and gentlemen. Israel's claiming that Iran has a nuclear capability or the ability to create an enriched uranium bomb. Oh, please. Come on, they've been crying the same lie. Like the weapons of mass destruction. I mean, then what ends up happening is, yeah, they wiped out Saddam Hussein off the map. They dug him out of a hole there, got him, hung him for the whole world to see. Now, Osama bin Laden, I guess they couldn't show the whole world because they didn't want any of the people to be angry, any of the infidels. Like, weren't there infidels that were like, behind Saddam? Wasn't he a bad guy too? The terrorists, that one of these people that they, don't they keep together? Don't they come from the same class, from the same group? Aren't they cut from the same cloth, right? Osama bin Laden, Saddam Hussein, you can hang him right in front of the public eye, and Osama bin Laden had to be buried in accordance with Islamic tradition and buried at sea. A couple of SEALs come out and write some books and some COINTELPRO pieces, and then you have of course, the actual team that did the operation were killed soon after in a helicopter crash. So I don't know how the American people could be so blind. For various reasons, they do these things. Al-Qaeda is, again, another one of these tools, and then they'll shift. They'll say Al-Qaeda has been decimated and they're done, and then they'll either rise up again or they'll shift and morph into another black op title. And these people are compartmentalized. I mean, they really hate America and all they really want to do, all the stuff. They got them all these places, but who's really pulling the strings and behind it is not anybody that is from that region even. You're dealing with bankers. You're dealing with military-industrial complex. You're dealing with evil forces, sinister evil forces. So we need a big change in this country because we're all being brought into this new world order, and these bankers are going to run it. They're going to tell you everything. You need to get a shot. You need to get the RFID chip in your hand. You're going to need to listen to everything we say. You're going to take all the things we say. You're going to keep paying all these taxes and these carbon taxes that we're going to add onto it. And lo and behold, just around the time you're about to retire, you're going to start getting sick and dying. And all that money that you put into the Social Security fund goes away because most folks end up being divorced. That's right. They love it that way. 50% divorce rate. They broke that shit down. Put the woman to work, break up the family, break up moral decay, New World Order ploy, all the way. And then, what do you have? Well, you're 67 years old. You got to wait another year till you're 67 to get your Social Security. You've got 30-year-old kids that have their own kids. You're divorced. And your wife has Social Security, and interestingly enough, you pass, and where does that money go? To the surviving children? No, you're over 18. The money goes back into the trust fund, ladies and gentlemen, the so-called trust fund. And then where does the money go for the spouse? They're divorced. She has her own money, and when she dies, there's no children's spouse either. It's such a small amount of people that benefit for survivorship. You have to be married. So of course they've been trying to break down the family and have all this humanistic stuff and all this new agey stuff and all these things moving away from morality and God. And that people have to be freedom and responsibility, Jean-Paul Sartre, all this stuff. This is how they're trying to have you feel that you can do whatever it is that you want, as long as you're accepted, you accept responsibility for it, and you're more interested in having less people in the world. There are too many people in the world, so you don't want to add to the problem. You're not going to have children. You live that way. That's your choice. And they want more and more people to think like that. And they love the idea of the eroticizing of cinema, and now, of course, the addition of a lot of homosexual overtones or blatant sexual acts even are now becoming permissible on television and in the movies. And I'm not making this into another quote unquote racial or quote unquote hate issue. It's not. I mean, these people have a right to live and just like everyone else. That's my point. Everyone has their individual rights. But what they're doing is, again, they're trying to instill in you, and they're trying to get you to feel not only that it's acceptable, but maybe I want to be part of that, because believe me, they want that. The more people that are homosexual, whether it be, man on man or women and women, whatever, okay, they don't have sex. They have to, either spend money to get embryos, so they're the higher classes of people, or they don't have children, or they adopt children. It's not. It's like if there was, over the next century, if there was this large shift of people that decided that they're going to have these civil unions that they want to call marriages, and then they're going to not have children. They're going to have children off the system somehow, unless they're wealthy, like I said, and they can have these in vitro fertilizations, or they get a stud, or whatever they do. I mean, generally speaking, it's going to keep the population down. No, wouldn't you think so? Same thing with the fact of women starting their careers and getting into their careers, and and then either they have no time for women for having children and they don't want it, or their clock runs out. What about the sterilants that they're putting in the food and in the water supplies? John P. Holdren is the science czar of this country. I mean, what about all of these components, all these factors? They have to be accounted for. They have to be analyzed. They have to be quantified, so you can understand how much of an assault we really are on. I mean, you say, well, free country, you could say what you want. Well, sort of. Like I said, there's all these problems. We'd have a choice not to buy the product. Well, really, what if you want to buy raw milk? The FDA will come and knock down your door. What if you want to have an alternative cancer treatment, like Dr. Carpenter? They'll shut you down and take away your payroll, and take the money, and take your everything, like the mafia, like the IRS when they come in and do their these are criminals. This is against the Constitution. You can't unrightful searches and seizures, even with a warrant. There's no they can't steal your money, but they can confiscate it and keep it in trust, I guess. Some sort of letter of the law, so that they just put these people out of business and just destroy them. And smaller businesses and mom and pop businesses across the world, this is happening to. The big conglomerates, the big corporations, that's where they want you to buy. The food supply that's slapped together with all the processed shit, that's what they want you to eat. That's what you have to know. So don't do it. Don't buy that shit. Don't buy processed foods. Make your own food as close as you can. I have a garden. Grow as much as you can. Stay away from fluoridated water. No GMO food. Make sure that there's no GMO food that you're getting. No corn. Corn is all GMO. Just stay away from corn. Various dairy products. I mean, dairy is generally not that good. But you have to be careful. If you're going to have beef and meat, make sure that it's like Big Y, for example, has they don't feed any hormones and all this stuff to their meat, to their beef. Same thing with chicken, farm raised chicken that have no antibiotics or other things like that, hormones. There are a couple of local farms. I got Klug Farm that is in here in Torrington where we get stuff, and there's food that you can have that's, if you live in a more or less rural area. Like I'm more of in Torrington, Connecticut is, there's still a few farms, the Ruitt Farm, as I mentioned before, and there's quite a bit of this people that get farm raised eggs every day, buy eggs, from the farm, and that's great, and there should be more of that, and it's healthier. But they don't really want it to be healthier. They want you to eat this GMO food that in studies over the course of generations causes sterility. So you don't even see it. That's how evil like Monsanto is. You don't even see how you're being poisoned. You don't even feel it until it's too late. Until you're long gone and buried and your children are gone and buried, then their children have no progeny. Although those that are not and those that are aware will have sterility. But they already have noticed sterility for various other reasons. They put sterilants, as I said, in the water and the vaccines. You have John P. Holdren as the science czar, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, read his book, Ecoscience, 1977, co-written book. It talks about all of this, forced sterilizations, one-child policies, the planet, keeping the planet above, for all the it's only about the goodness of the world, and you can't, and Bill Gates is making a better toilet so we can use energy, and all these things look so good on the surface, but there's such a diabolical backdrop to it. Agenda 21, a world government, no more individual rights, and this is what our nation was founded upon. God-given, inalienable individual rights, and that's why I'm here. That's why I do what I do. That's why Jim Russell and I co-founded We Are Change Connecticut. That's why Harry Link broadcasts this broadcast and does Death to the New World Order, his show, and it does an incredible amount of work on the truthbroadcastnetwork.com. And I'm sure that's why Bobby K does what he does on Project Freedom Radio, because we care. We are aware. And probably the worst crime is to be aware of something evil and do nothing to speak out against it, nothing to stop it. It's absolutely incumbent on us as Americans, as patriots, or whatever country you're from, because this broadcast reaches, I know, on TalkStream Live, 55 different affiliates, so it goes across the world. It's no different in Canada or in England or Portugal or Denmark or wherever else, Australia. We are in a similar place, where where our governments are all corrupted. They're all owned by these manipulative ruling class families whose corporations are seeking to monopolize basically all of the resources, all of the technologies, all of the product lines, all of the media sources, and things that they can't control, they speak out against and censor and try to say that there's a problem, and it's this and it's that, and it's a threat to national security. The biggest crime and biggest lie is saying it's a threat to national security. Makes me sick. I just can't even begin to tell you how angry and aggravated I am about that. And everybody is just so blind. We just take our freedom for granted, ladies and gentlemen. We take everything we have for granted. If things are going good in your life, then you certainly pay no attention to anything else that's going around. If things are bad, maybe you're a little more aware. Maybe you're open-minded. But the problem is, it doesn't matter if things are good or if things are bad. These things are happening. Whether you've had the same job for the last 30 years and you've never missed a paycheck, and you've got assets and property, and I don't understand. It's terrible what these people are going through. These people, those people, the people that are not in trouble, the people that don't have a job. Those people are the ones that have the problem, not me. I've been gainfully employed. In fact, I got a raise. Well, That's the problem, because you too are going to be affected by this cog, this piece, this wheel that we're all in, this New World Order environment, that as they chip it away and decay the moral fibers of our morality, and I'm not saying that it's immoral. Again, I want to go back to, I want to clarify this, because I have many good friends that are homosexuals, women and men. I work with two of them at work, two women, and actually I know a couple of other people that are close. I have family members that are gay, and that is their individual right, individual freedom. Stay away from it. Stop talking about that. Stop talking about all these other rights. The only one that in my eyes, that has sort of legitimacy is abortion, because technically, there's another life that has no voice. And how can you speak for that voice? Who speaks for that voice? So that's my issue there. So, I mean, I used to be 100% for a woman's right to choose, because she would have, it's her body. And when I was unaware, and not realizing that that's just really not the right way to be. I mean, it's just not. And I've come to that understanding, and I hope others will too, but that's your own decision. I give information here. I mean, people like this person that's challenged me to this thing with Janet Phelan and Barbara Hartwell over the neo-Nazis and the truth movement is like as if that's my agenda. I talk about things that I wish that you all should listen about and think about and talk about and discuss amongst yourselves and research. Most of all, like I say, everybody has to research every word I say and find your own truth, because there's only one truth, and that is the truth. And I have researched what I speak of, and I have found this to be the truth. Okay, you're trying to tell me that there aren't neo-Nazis out there, people that hate Jews and hate anything, blacks and Puerto Ricans and all these other people, and the New World Order bankers. You don't think that exists? Of course it does. It's stupid. And I haven't had the opportunity to talk to Janet or Barbara about this particular subject matter, but since I'm saying it live on the air, I, of course, will and get back to you on that. I'm not, he challenged me, he said, don't be a chicken. So obviously I'm not chickening out. It's just, I don't know if this is a COINTELPRO approach, because after all, American Free Press is a pretty big and legitimate source. They have a radio thing. I mean, this is a pretty big thing. You're dealing with, a reputable source as far as, but they're then a reputable station and whatnot. But you got to wonder why they're telling me, like, that's like, for example, me saying, well, your guests, your guest was on and I want to talk to you because of what your guest said. It's like as if he's clumping me in with Janet and Barbara, who were doing shows at the time. Janet Phelan and Barbara Hartwell were doing shows on various radio shows, including, I think it was Truth Talk News. It might even have been We Are Change Connecticut. We probably might have even done 2 shows on it. And at the time, they were going on radio shows talking about this subject. So I'm just another host. So what, you want every host that they went on their radio show to talk about? I mean, I don't understand this approach. And interestingly enough, I'm intrigued. I got to tell you, because there's clearly something is not normal. Normally you would just say, oh, I don't agree with you, or because it was definitely like an attacking type of a statement, was sort of like wanted to like tear into me for some reason. And I was just there, I mean, this exists, ladies and gentlemen, whether you want to believe it or not, or so I'm thinking there might be some COINTELPRO activity here. So obviously I'm going to address it, entertain it, and I'll hold my ground, because I'll say it again, I hold no ill will towards any group of people other than people that wish to enslave, harm, or maim and kill, or poison and torture others. Simply said. So yeah, the neo-Nazi is a problem. that's a problem. I mean, after all, you have various ways that the COINTELPRO operates to separate and divide and conquer, and using these Machiavellian and Hegelian tactics. All right, so I don't want to fall into a trap, but at the same time, it's hilarious to make it to say that I wouldn't, go on someone else's show and talk about something. But I don't have any expertise or knowledge in the subject as much as they do. So you really should be interviewing them. I don't even know the guy's name because Jim Russell, We Are Change Connecticut, he just told me about this. I forget the guy's name. I don't have the information handy. It just sort of was weird, and I don't even know why I'm talking about it now, wasting time on it, because I think there is much to be said for folks out there that think that everybody in the truth movement is doing good work, because they're not. They're just not. There is deception, there is agendas for various reasons, for money, also for power, also because they are controlled and paid to do it that way. And then there are those that hate. There are hate groups. That's the problem. I'm not a hater. I don't hate anyone. The New World Order, these criminal bankers, yeah, I have to say that there's some hate there for those, because we know they're criminals and we're trying to expose them, but yet they want to attack people who are exposing information. So I'm very interested to try to see where this goes with this guy from American Free Press, because after all, what are you trying to stir up? Trying to stir up some sort of trouble, because I don't see how there's even a way to deny that this exists, because you would be a fool to think that it doesn't exist. That COINTELPRO doesn't exist. I was a fool. I didn't know. I thought, Anthony J. Hilder and Alex Jones, and I thought all these guys were on the straight up, but turns out that they're really not. And, the really good ones are either dead or been scared away, chased away, or silenced with money. And that's a truth. That is the truth. Somebody like Jeremy Floyd, again, stepped down from GCN because he had the plug pulled on a show with Barbara Hartwell talking about Ted Gunderson and his connection to Diana Rively, who was the former head of the Church of Satan, married to Anton LaVey, I should say, who was the head of the Church of Satan. And that he was covering up things about the child sex trafficking and satanic abuse that he was supposedly fighting. That's COINTELPRO. That's how it works. And now she, of course, has been ostracized, and over the last 17 years, they've been breaking her down little by little. Barbara Hartwell, who was a good friend of Ted Gunderson, worked together with him for 3 years. So this is the truth. And the truth doesn't fit into the COINTELPRO playbook. So when you're attacked for telling the truth, then you know that this is how it works. If you're out there parroting everything that Alex Jones says, and if you're out there parroting everything that Anthony Hilder says, nobody's going to bother with you. Nobody's going to attack you because you're part of the club. You're a compartmentalized cog in the wheel of the agenda to control your mind. And if they attack you and they give you problems and they attack at you and they want to take away from what you're saying or try to discredit you or worse, or interrupt your broadcast, break your equipment, destroy things, hit you with neurological weapons, then you know you're saying something that's really getting on somebody's nerves. Well, that's what I do. I get on people's nerves. The right people, not the COINTELPRO assholes that they send to attack you, but the nerves of the controllers. And that's what we have to keep hitting. And it's unbelievable that we've come to a point where fact is really, truly not important. the truth doesn't really matter. What matters is that the agenda moves forward. If the truth were something like, for example, Watergate, everyone thinks, oh, it was this big mistake. Well, Watergate was a setup. It happened the way they wanted it to. You think these people are, the plumbers were stupid, right? They put the tape on the door twice, and that's how come they got caught. They were supposed to get caught. It was supposed to happen. You think that those tapes that they found, the specific parts of those tapes from the hundreds and hundreds of hours of tapes that were recorded, just happened to be found? That had the incriminating part and the 18-minute long missing part? No. Of course it was done intentionally. And then they make movies to make you think it happened some other way. It's really, really frustrating. Sometimes I just want to scream. I want to scream because, you know, how dare you attack me about something that I do there? Why don't you just get the people on the damn show? Why, they won't go on the show? Is that what it is? You want to mix me into an issue that I'm not part of. I expose all these things. I expose them. It's not my, it's not my it's not, I'm not a part of it. I'm not part of this evil control grid. Okay. So why would you be asking me to talk about something that I obviously abhor, because I hate any type of censorship and any type of I don't know what's the word to use. I'm trying to, like, I don't know. I'm keep getting stuck on this this issue with this guy from the American Free Press, because it's sort of really getting under my skin. It's like really bothering me because, like, skinheads for 9/11 truth. I mean, that's a good thing, I guess. I don't know. Is that a good thing? That's where I'm going here with this. I mean, that's what I'm talking about, And then the whole idea of the Holocaust deniers, people that deny the Holocaust never happened. These people are crazy. I'm supposed to give them some light. What are they? What is that? Anyway, I'm rambling, and I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. Get back to some news. Looks as though, in general, we have trouble here. Of course, every summer we know the criminal cartel raises the prices of gasoline, whether or not Americans are driving or not. Somehow they say it has nothing to really do with that, but then when Americans drive, well, that's why the prices go up. So summertime blues for the drivers. Gas in August is at a record. It's never been so high. Paid an average of $3.72 a gallon on this month. It's averaged, it hasn't been this high ever. $3.71 and 7 cents. So $3.72 a gallon. A year ago, the average was $3.57 a gallon. Higher gas prices aren't what the sluggish economy needs, since, of course, extra money that goes to fill up gas tanks doesn't get spent at movie theaters or restaurants. Yes, but the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds take it. They love it that way. Okay. Oh, excellent. We have the U.S. economy is going to collapse. It is an unavoidable mathematical certainty. Well, I've gone over this, and I've absolutely mentioned this many times, but here's why. Lorimer Wilson, editor of Monkey.com, that's M-U-N-Knee, N-E-K-N-E-E.com, says in a report here that electing Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan, no matter how determined they might be to fix matters, will not alter the fact that the U.S. economy is going to collapse. That's right. It is written. Their election may buy some time and may even lessen some of the pain of a collapse, but that is all. Neither they nor anyone else can rewrite the inexorable laws of arithmetic. That is the truth. Because we do have this Ponzi scheme, it is going to collapse, regardless of how good it appears. Unbelievable. America is quickly approaching a catastrophic economic collapse. But before you dismiss this as hype or paranoia, that's right, I always talk about that. The numbers don't lie. At this point, the dollar crash is unavoidable. Far from exaggeration, it's mathematical certainty. And here's how it is. The article written by Crisis Headquarters is one of the best explanations as why the ending is written. It lays out in detail the magnitude of the problems which cannot be solved. And everyone should read the article. It is at economicnoise.com. Now, what it's basically showing is that we're not going to be able to make our obligations on our tax payments, not our tax payments, our interest payments. We have the ever reduction in the value of the dollar as it's been taken farther and farther away from the gold standard in 71. This is inevitable. And we always knew it was going to come, and the civil unrest will follow. When the dollar crashes, food will be gone. Mayhem. I mean, this isn't anything new. And the people, the doomsday people, I mean, they've got the goddamn people in the media saying all this crap about putting television shows on like doomsday preppers and all of this stuff, making fun and making light of it. Like, these guys are crazy. Look at that. Well, honestly, the solution is going to be more enslavement, and it's impossible to to get away from it. It just can't. You cannot erase this amount of debt. It's just impossible. It's unmanageable. The services have to be cut, and even if you do that, you're still in debt. It's been perfectly planned to do this. This bailout Obama totally destroyed our nation, enslaved us for generations. The U.S. should hand over footage of drone strikes or face UN inquiry. You're listening to Project Freedom Radio, ProjectFreedom.ws, and watching TruthBroadcastNetwork.com. Yeah, interesting. So the United Nations is finally saying they want to see some of the drone strikes. I mean, you know how many people they've killed, these drones? It's unbelievable. In Pakistan, U.S. drone strikes had killed at least 4 militants after targeting their vehicles in North Waziristan on Sunday. Last week, more drone attacks. They've killed plenty of people. Let's see. Human Rights Council in March says that they will remain at the top of the UN political agenda until some consensus of transparency has been achieved. But they're gonna try to get some transparency as we continue to do this. So the drone attacks under George Bush, this is really what happened. So in Yemen, Pakistan and Yemen have shot up drone strikes, most notably there, since Barack Obama became president. Estimates state that while there were as much as 52 strikes against George Bush's time, this number has risen to 282. So 282 strikes. Unbelievable. Can you believe it? And he laughs. The president laughs. Obama laughs. Shouldn't call him the president. He laughs when he says, yeah, we should throw some drones up there. And everyone laughs in Congress. They think it's all funny as we slaughter innocent civilians. This is America. This is freedom. But we, the people, we will rise, and we are coming. That is true. As anti-terrorist exercise planned for D.C. skies, we have the Air Force and Coast Guard are going to be doing intercept and identification exercises over Washington. They did that, and it's always nice to make sure that as the war drums beat, they have to make sure that everything's safe and keep us all safe. Oof. Well, in the second hour, we're going to be going over some more news, and I'm going to screen the part of the presentation from Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth's
You're listening to
film.
Project Freedom Radio, ProjectFreedom.ws,
The experts
and watching
on
Truth Broadcast Network.
explosive evidence. That's coming right up. Stick around. Lehman Brothers, Goldman Sachs, false flag, terror attacks, Bill Gates, Henry Kissinger, New World Order, mind control, Bank of America stealing homes with cut and paste mortgage loans, police, state, taser guns, FEMA camps, man to run, Monsanto rules the food supply while Big Pharma dopes your mind, prison system, profiteers, foundations, fund the fears, fund the evil through the years, the world's not as it appears. CIA smuggles drugs while Wachovia and Wells Fargo launder them, then give the proceeds to the owners of the Federal Reserve Bank. Now the IRS takes money out of every single check. Money created out of thin air and leave you with debt. They want to make you a serf, a slave to their demand. They want to take your life in every way they can. Fluoride, GMO, vaccines, chemtrails, United Nations genocide. The world they show us is not real. This is how they kill and steal. Rothschild, Bundy, Rockefeller, Club of Rome. On the Georgia Guidestones it's written in stone. Cut through the matrix, awaken to the lies. Do not be hypnotized. We are one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Watch Truth Talk News, Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on truthbroadcastnetwork.com. Okay, we're back. Thank you for joining us, or me. Vinny is awaiting the birth of his daughter, who's due just about any day. So he's going to be with her, with his girl, and waiting. So I was trying to get a hold of my friend Jim at Are Change Connecticut and just set a little light on this whole thing. Let's see if he's around before we move on. Trying to see if I don't know if he's around. Yeah, Jim Russell. Nope, I guess not. Oh well. Anyhow, the war drums have been beating, as I mentioned. Of course, we all know this, between Iran and Israel, and it's just out of control. World War III is brewing, and I don't know what to make of it. I mean, it seems to be the only outcome is inevitable military action. As usual, endless war, and we certainly have had our share of it over the last decade, but it'll continue. And they'll be fighting back and forth and saying, bring the troops home, and we do have to do this, and and each administration gets slicker and slicker in the lies and deceptions of the agenda, as the wars just continue on and on and on, as they really have. When you look back, my Lord, look back to the United Nations, and how many wars, uprisings, insurrections have been created in the name of peace by the United Nations. How many times has the CIA toppled governments, put in puppets for these New World Order bankers who come in and bring in their central banks and steal all the resources of the country? how can't anybody see this? We need out of the UN. We need to regain our sovereignty at all costs. I just was thinking again how close we're coming to 9/11, and I'm looking forward to being down there with Harry Link, truthbroadcastnetwork.com. We'll be doing a live stream feed. I think it's going to be on Ustream. I'm not exactly sure, but we'll get the details. I'm really pumped for that, and it's important. Again, I've lost a family member on 9/11 who died when the buildings fell, and I never once thought until 2007 that the government had anything to do with it. Me. That's right. So I understand what it's like to be a sheep. I was a sheep. I was wrapped up in all the things that I'm telling you I was wrapped up in, that I speak about and say, oh, these people watching TV and movies, and I was trying to sell scripts to movie scripts, and doing all this stuff, and that I was trying to get involved in, that I had no idea what it was really all about. And I was absolutely hoodwinked in so many ways. Had stories stolen from me. Oh my God, I can look back, and then not realizing about the way it really works. It's very easy to really get in if you just know how to do it and know what you need to do. In all of these controlled industries like the music business and films, for what you want to do and how you want to achieve it, you definitely need an in. Somebody has to bring you in. Even then I knew that. And what they mean by that is into the order, into the real inner circle of the players, the people that make things happen. And those players are this inner circle team, which is in all of these connections, and most of them are actually Masons. I go over this, it's a truth. It's not just the Masons, it's not just the Jews, but there are Jews, and there are Masons, and there are Muslims, and there are Catholics, and it's interfaith as far as that. And it's continuing on, and it has been, just like Ned Beatty said in Network, since man crawled out of the slime. Pretty much. This group of people have been sort of running things, the elite who own the whole show, the top of the pyramid. Now, I know a lot of people, maybe people that are not new to the show, or they are new, I should say, and not people that they know where I'm coming from. Anybody that's listening that's listened before, but if you've never listened, you probably think, who the hell is this weird guy? He's like rambling on, going on and on in all these different directions. I'm really not. It's very cohesive. It's very understandable. All of these things that we talk about, or I talk about, Vinny's usually here, are all tied together. They're all connected by this obvious mechanism. It's like a spider web of evil, a network of evil. You have all this interlockingness, and people working together when they need to. They work independently. Don't get me wrong. It's not like they call up everybody and say, hey, what's going on today? What do we got to do to make the New World Order happen? No, it doesn't work that way. They're all setting aside their agendas for the year. The Bilderberg meeting pretty much sets aside the agenda for how they're going to rape and pillage and cause wars and do all this other stuff. And they do it behind closed doors. The Club of Rome sets the agenda for how we're going to have the scientific dictatorship put into place, and the eugenics program, and they're deep on that, and the population reduction. And then you have the Trilateral Commission and working along with the Council on Foreign Relations to sort of, get this whole thing with China booming. As China's booming, we're dying. Now there's this rhetoric out there that we're not going to be buying from China anymore, and that would be great. But let's make it American. I don't listen to what these people say at all, but I watch very closely what they do, and what they do seems to be, again, this Orwellian type doublespeak. You have, like when we were gonna, well, we did, of course, take out Gaddafi. Now, when we did that, you had John Kerry saying, we're not going to have any military action in Libya. And then he said, we're just going to be bombing strategic targets. Well, by doing that and saying that, you mind fuck the public. I mean, that's basically what it is. It's a mind fuck. And then you just go, oh yeah, I got it. It's mind control. It's a method. It's a technique to just sort of like brush things along. Like the slide response, the CIA slide response of things like oh yeah, you're a nut, you're a conspiracy theorist. He doesn't know anything. Ain't that crazy? Conspiracies? That's nuts. That's a slide response because you're not willing to investigate. You just take it and dismiss it as ridiculous. And that is what they hope you do. And I'm telling you, don't do that. I'm telling you, this is what you do. You research everything that I talk about. You research the Trilateral Commission, Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderberg Group, meeting, setting things together, putting agendas in place, planning their evil, planning their takeover to bring in the new, well, it is here, but to continue the efforts of total control of all aspects of human life. Because we live in the New World Order, and we're giving up what they need to take. It's just like for these people that are not aware out there that might be watching and listening. It's like these TV shows, these cable shows, these vampire shows where they suck the blood out of people, they suck the life out of people, and like the True Blood, it's actually like a society of vampires in a world where there's where vampires exist, and all this stuff is not just stories, ladies and gentlemen. It's not just a storyline. It's intentional. And that is what's actually they're doing. These vampires are sucking the life force out of humanity. It's just disgusting. And then you have these things. Again, let's support Israel. I'm just shocked that they could do this. I mean, I'm looking at I'm going to show this to the camera. Oh boy, that's good. Support Israel. Okay? I do not support the state of Israel at all. I am not an anti-Semite. But I do not support the state of Israel. I do not support any government that is tyrannical to its people. And the Palestinian people are under horrific tyranny. And they have gotten the American people to think that, well, you can't say Ahmadinejad is good. No, he's not good. But he's actually saying, look at what these people are doing to the Palestinians in their own country. I mean, this has been going on since Israel was founded, because Israel said, well, the Palestinians were there, but this is Israel. So if you don't know your history, you'll never be able to understand this. Now, it's got nothing to do with hating Jews, or hating Palestinians, or hating Muslims. Muslims or Iranians, okay? But it's part of what you perceive and you think that it's like that. And that's how you think of things, and that's, oh, those bastards, those sand niggers, whatever, okay? So you have to understand that it doesn't matter. Tyranny is what it is. It doesn't matter what they say on television. It doesn't matter what they say on the news or anything. It matters what they do. Find out. And then ask yourself, why does it in America that they don't show any of the problems any of the things that Israel does to the Palestinian people? Why? Well, it's obvious. Because they have a lot of Christians that back Israel. That's right. Because they have this whole biblical thing there, and this connection to Israel. They've been controlled. I mean, it's just outrageous. I'm getting a headache thinking about it. And it goes back to this thing with the neo-Nazis. And I'm like, what the hell, man? Obviously, there are neo-Nazis and COINTELPRO agents in all sorts of areas of the truth movement. They could be pretending that they're neo-Nazis. They could be neo-Nazis. They could have white Aryan. They're into all that, like that kind of, white Aryan, white power type stuff, and hate Jews, and and all of this is all bad stuff, man. Like this guy that killed this guy that was a like an Aryan guy, one of the shooters lately. I say lately because it seems to be like an ongoing occurrence. God knows, it could be a psyop in itself from the government. Who knows? Who knows? Everything happens. You never really can tell what it is, and that's the truth. You can't make rhyme or reason of it. But this bass playing guy that was he was in a band and went out there and outside shot these people outside the Sikh temple, I think it was, right? Anyway, what is it? It's just hatred for a people or a type of person. The Muslims are the Arabs or whatever. They're not the problem. It's the hatred of them, and they hate and those in theirs that hate us. And I just wish that people would understand that. It seems like it's almost like a mood effort. It's been going on for a long time, but there can be peace. There can be peace if the people don't fight, if they refuse to go to war over lies and deceptions, like what's going on here with Iran and Israel. I mean, they're saying that Israel is saying that Iran is so close to having the ability to get a nuclear bomb that they're going to have a preemptive strike, and it's like weapons of mass destruction. It's the same story. It's the George Bush over and over again. It's like, we know they're there. They got those weapons of mass destruction. We know it. Meanwhile, next thing you know, by the time they're there and everything's Saddam's toppled and they get him out of the spider hole, we have a whole new ball game, right? And again, the Rothschilds and the Rocks go in there and they do their thing. Military-industrial complex cleans up. It's beautiful. They love it. They love it that way. So war is a big part of their fancy. That's what they want. And they're just rumors of war just keep persisting. According to NATO, Israel is going to attack soon. That's pretty bad. I don't know how much more we can take of all this stuff, but it is happening. They're still trying. Charles Castle is still trying. my work with Janet Phelan regarding Charles Castle, the conservatorship of Charles Castle, who I had her on recently. They're still having issues with this. It's an LPS conservatorship, and after several attempts to get copies of his legal file, they say that it would be against federal policy. So we're still fighting for you, Mr. Castle, and hopefully we'll get some help to you and get you out of this prison that you've been put in, this mental. They put him in there as a mental institution for over a year. And the guy, you hear him on an interview that we did on, I think it was on Truth Talk News, on truthbroadcastnetwork.com, on the archives. You can go to the archives on youtube.com, Freedom First Film, archives of all these broadcasts. youtube.com, Freedom First Films. And then I think it was about a 15-minute interview where he was so lucid, and they're saying this guy's insane. I was like, what the hell, that he's incompetent and he can't take care of his own affairs, and then you start wondering what's going on, and there's just this very like insidious plot against Charles, who's a homeless man. He's homeless. The story of this guy is the guy that he was on the street, walking down the street, and they just just picked him up. They just this homeless task force or whatever, mental task force, just came out there and just grabbed him off the street, and he's been incarcerated ever since. It's just awful. It really is. Okay. Going through a few other things. In the third hour, I wanted to look back in time, because for the better part of the next, I guess 40 minutes or so, I'm going to entertain you with Wayne Costi from Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, who gave a tremendous presentation of the film 9/11 Explosive Evidence from the experts. And there was a nice showing. There was a good showing in the Torrington City Hall auditorium. I guess there was about 85 people there, and there was about 112 seats, so that's a pretty good ratio. It's in the high 80s there, 90% almost. It was nice to have that kind of a turnout, and he did a really good job. And this is like sort of an excerpt from it, and it shows the evidence of 9/11, because we're going into this false flag attack deeply, and it gets closer and closer to understanding it if you just look at the physics of it. When we look back in time, we see the future, and those who forget or forget the past are condemned to repeat it. And we can't forget that there was a trial run for interventionism, and I'm going to be covering this in the third hour, comparing 9/11 to the Maine, which was the false flag event hyped up by William Randolph Hearst to create the Spanish-American War, which led to interventionism, and we left Puerto Rico and all these other assets that we got out of it from Spain. It's very interesting and very worthwhile to stick around and check it out. So what I'll be doing is showing you now the broadcast from Wednesday, the 22nd of August, and this is let me just get it filled out here, get a nice wide shot of it. And it was recorded at Torrington, Connecticut City Hall Auditorium, and please enjoy it. So Wayne, who made these miniatures?
Well, these are from David Munson 3D. He's does 3D graphic modeling, and what the these are a part of it.
Amazing.
There's actually about 3 of them. There's 3 of them. There's a third one and the third one has the Freedom Tower in it, and so it is in the Fire Museum of New York, and they're there so that people can see what used to be there, what happened on the day of 9/11, and in fact, when you wonder, when you see some of the things like this being on display, and the way that it is on display, what you will wonder is if the people are in fact trying to get the message out in the best way that they are able to, and one of which is to put things on display. For example, in the Fire Museum of New York, and I think we'll see it in the Experts Speak Out documentary tonight, what you're going to see is a firearm, a gun, a pistol that is embedded in molten concrete. Why would they put this on display in molten concrete? Because you need 3,300 degrees Fahrenheit to melt concrete. They're there, because, as near as I can tell, they're there simply so that you can get the message out in the way that you are able to. You can't put it and say, well, this is molten concrete from the World Trade Center indicating the presence of thermite. Thermite's the only thing that could have done that. You're not going to get molten concrete from jet fuel fires at all.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Howard Nema from We Are Change Connecticut, wearechangeCT.org, and we're sponsoring 9/11 Explosive Evidence Experts Speak Out screening, one of the first screenings of this new cut. We've done this before at the Silas Bronson Library in Waterbury, Connecticut back in September of last year with a longer cut. This is a shorter cut, more concise, with less repetition, but very effective and powerful. And we're blessed to be joined here by having my good friend Wayne Costa, who will be, he's an engineer, who will be explaining the physics involved with controlled demolition and how what happened on 9/11 isn't exactly what, as many things in this world are, not exactly what they appear to be. So without further ado, I just want to give a shout out to truthbroadcastnetwork.com, and I also do a show discussing these type of topics Monday through Thursday on truthbroadcastnetwork.com. The show is called Truth Talk News. You can just Google it or tune in to truthbroadcastnetwork.com. It's a alternative source of information. There's articles and other things there as well. And God bless you all. And now we have Wayne Costa from Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth.
Thank you very much for coming out. You know, it's a beautiful day, and I'm really honored that you've decided, not honored, I guess, I'm really pleased that you've decided to spend the night here with us learning about something that you can't hear from, you won't find in other venues. Thank you for coming. Now, my name is Wayne Costi. By the way, if you need to find where this is on Truth Broadcasting Network, just Google Howard Nema.
That's pretty much all you got to do.
That's all you got to do. But anyway, my name is Wayne Costi. I'm a registered professional engineer. I am one of nearly 2,000 architects and engineers that are now calling for a new investigation into the what we say the fraudulent. No, that's too loud.
Yeah, I just want to get everyone here.
Yeah. I'm one of nearly 2,000 architects and engineers calling for a new investigation into the fraudulent engineering reports about the destruction of the 3 World Trade Center towers on September 11th. Most people don't know that a third tower was destroyed on that day. But at any rate, I got involved in this many years ago, about 4 years ago, when I first saw the first version of a documentary about how the towers were built and how they came apart by architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth. On the day of 9/11, I remember watching the television and I saw the buildings fall. How many of you remember where you were on September 11th? Yeah, everyone knows this one. You know, it was a really traumatic event, really shocking. We spent the next week just in shock about the whole thing. But at any rate, it was really difficult to get my hands around what happened at the World Trade Center building. When I first saw, on the day of 9/11, I first saw the Twin Towers fall. What we saw was I remember seeing the top of the South Tower coming towards me, and I said, oh my God, we're going to have an 80-story building. And then I looked in absolute disbelief as the entire Twin Tower just unzipped all the way down to the basements, and I just could not believe it. And then
watch Truth Talk News Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on TruthBroadcastNetwork.com.
I just can't believe what I saw. And over the ensuing years, nothing really kind of made a lot of sense as to how the buildings could have been destroyed that way. So I rested, even as an engineer trained in all this stuff, I rested uncomfortably with the official story that fires in the planes followed by fire resulted in a complete and total catastrophic destruction of the buildings. I kept that as my understanding until about 2007, when I saw this first documentary by architects and engineers, where a lot of the evidence was put forward in a scientific kind of a really physical-based manner, and I began to become much more understanding of what actually happened to the buildings. And so I'm really understand what many people who haven't yet come to terms with what actually happened on September 11th are going through it, and what they have to go and what they have to deal with as they come to terms. And we'll see some of that discussion. We'll see some of that discussion in this documentary. Now, when you spend as much time and effort doing this type of work, you have to ask yourself why you do this. And I'll tell you that I personally have 4 reasons for being in front of you today. First, I feel that I'm a witness to a mass murder in which the person who pushed the button is still out there. Secondly, I'm an engineer, and after studying these buildings, when I'm told that these are gravitational collapses, it's an affront to me as an engineer. Third, there's a greatly villainized community in this country, and it's the Muslim community, and all I ever simply say is the story is a lot deeper. And the last, and probably the most important reason, is that if this story can be hidden in plain sight, not discussed anywhere in the media, what else is not being discussed and disclosed? And it's a call for you all to pay more attention to what's going on in the world around us. Now, so that's kind of a little bit about my journey. This documentary has been
that was a good way to put it.
About 3 years now. It took about 2 years to get to the first version of it, which was released on the 10th anniversary last year of September 11th. And it was a bit longer and more redundant, and it's taken the ensuing next year to kind of tighten this up so that it is as compact as you can get. This is the shortest version. It's now 88 minutes. We've been able to reduce it by a little bit. We hope that you'll really, I'm afraid that enjoy is not quite the right word. I think that I hope that you'll get as much out of it as I have. There's a lot of information. 43 of our professional petition signers are in here talking about why the official story cannot be true. And after we're done with this, because I do a lot of talking about the issues, presenting about it, I'll be glad to spend about an hour answering any questions that you have about the more or less technical issues associated with this. So I guess with that, we'll hit the start button here. Thanks.
What we really need to know is how those buildings came down.
My husband Steve was 48 years old when he was killed on September 11, 2001. He was in the North Tower on the 104th floor. There are so many unanswered questions, and that's scary to me. We never had answers. Nobody ever stopped to have a scientific investigation. A scientific investigation. A scientific investigation.
Tribute lights in the New York skyline. An annual memorial to the lives lost on 9/11. Yet there's still more light that needs to shine, revealing truths that their family members deserve to know. September 11th, 2001, a day that changed history. 4 planes went silent and off course. 2 of those planes crashed into the World Trade Center Twin Towers. Several columns were severed, and the jet fuel ignited fires that spread over several floors. About an hour later, millions watched in shock as both towers were suddenly and rapidly destroyed.
19 men with box cutters.
3,000 people, for whom truth and justice may have yet to be
Mostly from Saudi Arabia.
Hi, I'm Richard Gage, AIA, licensed architect of over 20 years and member of the American Institute of Architects. I'm founder of Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, a non-profit organization of well over 1,000 technical and building professionals. According to official government reports, the fires weakened the structural steel framing of both twin towers, leading to sudden, progressive, and total collapses. Unknown to most people, a third steel frame high-rise, World Trade Center 7, was also destroyed. Critical questions have been raised by more than 1,500 architects and engineers about the official explanations for the destruction of all 3 of these buildings. Along with more than 10,000 other concerned individuals, these professionals, collectively comprising more than 25,000 years of experience, have signed our petition. They're calling for a new investigation into the destruction of these 3 World Trade Center high-rises. This call is based on evidence that reveals a very different destruction scenario than reported by government engineers. This includes abundant scientific forensic data and eyewitness testimony that was omitted from the official reports. You'll be seeing this evidence and hearing from dozens of these technical experts, including many who are among the top in their respective fields.
I claim they're not doing science at all. They're doing propaganda or publicity or whatever.
It's worse. My God, the whole thing's fabricated. And they made so many mistakes.
We at AE 9/11 Truth take President Obama at his word in his affirmation to the American people during his inauguration.
What word?
How do we
This
accomplish
criminal?
this? We've done our best by using
Come
the
on.
scientific method, examining the evidence from the World Trade Center and developing unbiased conclusions from unbiased experts in their fields. As coherent sets of scientific facts are brought into focus by the experts, the data, and the witnesses in this film, you'll come to a much greater understanding of the events of 9/11 and will be in a position to draw your own informed conclusions.
InformedRadio.com.
Still most affected by the events of that tragic day are the family members of the victims lost on 9/11. Several have asked to appear in this documentary. Although our focus will be primarily technical, we are deeply moved and honored to give them the opportunity to speak directly to you. Now, let's hear from the AE 9/11 Truth professional petition signers, who will share with you what conclusions they came to. Among these experts are high-rise architects and engineers in the fields of structural design, material science, chemistry, fire protection, metallurgy, as well as physicists, explosives experts, and demolition technicians.
If we believe that fires brought down the World Trade Center buildings on 9/11, this is extremely troubling for those of us in the design professions, architects and engineers, even physicists.
Buildings just don't behave like that.
There was no hesitation. There was no hesitation when it was to hit story after story.
The tops of the buildings were basically disintegrated.
The fact that it was all reduced to rubble and powder just did not make sense at all.
Our whole society is being led to believe that these fundamental laws of physics, hard science, don't apply anymore. And that's, I think that should frighten all of us.
Also, psychologists, therapists, and counselors, along with theologian David Ray Griffin, who have a deep understanding of the personal issues associated with 9/11, will explain why it is so difficult for us to come to terms with the reality of these events, and learn how we can help ourselves and others with this difficult yet vital responsibility.
We were confident, we felt secure, and all of a sudden that security collapsed.
So the question becomes why? Why is it that people have so much trouble hearing this information?
When your beliefs are challenged, fear and anxiety are created.
We don't have leaders who would do those things.
I believe that to be the kind of country that we have to
yes,
some
we do.
Things that are not as we think they are.
Things are not like they are. That's a good question. How did two planes bring down 3 skyscrapers, ladies and gentlemen? How is that possible? World Trade Center 7. Part 1. A third high-rise came down that day.
The new World Trade Center, Building 7, looms above the site of its original. Building 7 was a 47-story high-rise, not hit by an airplane. Yet, it was the third modern steel-frame skyscraper to collapse rapidly and symmetrically on 9/11. It was a football field away from the North Tower and sustained minor damage from falling debris. Building 7's precipitous collapse was blamed on normal office fires.
I'm Steve Barish, founder and president of Barish Architects and Associates, Inc., a 33-year-old architecture planning and engineering firm. One of the things that really interested me is how quickly the Tower 7 fell. It fell within 7 seconds approximately from top to bottom. This building was built in the mid-'80s and met all the codes at the time.
From about 1965 until about 1985, most of my experience has been in high-rise, multi-story steel buildings. NIST would have us to believe that these was a typical office fire, scattered office fires, if you will, that brought this building down. Since the mid-'60s, I've tried to follow high-rise fires because they're something we worry a lot about as we design these buildings. And I'm not aware of any high-rise building that have come down as a result of fires.
I first became aware of the problems with the official account of the collapse when I saw a DVD online from Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. They pointed out various problems with the official story, and the ones that caught my attention were the rapid failure of the connections in order for the building to come down at the rate that it did.
I've been involved in many large projects, including overseeing several high-rise buildings ranging in size from 14 stories to 40. Over the course of 20 years, I'm mainly called in to help with very large, difficult projects. When I watched Building 7 collapse, it basically left no doubt in my mind that something was wrong. Building 7 had not been hit by a plane.
The coup de grace for me was when I found out that Building 7 had collapsed later that day. And when I saw Building 7 come down, to me, the fact that it looks like a perfect controlled demolition of an intact building.
Of course it was a controlled demolition. Look at that. My God.
That's what I call a smoking gun.
Was the structural steel from World Trade Center 7 preserved, documented, analyzed, according to standard procedures for investigating engineering failures.
Hailing the collapse study as an assessment rather than as an investigation has allowed valuable evidence in the form of the tower's structural steel to be destroyed. It is the steel that holds the primary key to understanding the chronology of the events resulting in the collapse.
When did you become aware that the steel from the World Trade Center was being sold off?
I think it was on the order of a week or so before we arrived on site on October the
These criminals plan this whole thing. This guy's good. Crowley's good.
Was disposing of material within 2 weeks of the actual event?
I believe I was the first one to find out that the steel is being recycled. New York Times reporter Jim Glantz told me 2 weeks after the collapse.
They're getting rid of the evidence, ladies and gentlemen. They did it.
City and also New York
These
Times
criminals.
tried to
Giuliani and his again, this great district attorney with all this great history of going after the mafia. Yeah.
In these last 6 months, that we can never go back and retrieve, and it's only unfortunate. It's borderline criminal.
It is criminal.
100 truckloads per day of material were taken away from the World Trade Center site and sent to China for
to China. Yeah, that's right.
Laws violated.
You bet there were.
Destruction of that evidence. And for the American Society of Civil Engineers to ignore those events is extremely discriminatory.
Criminal!
And is a violation, in my opinion, of their professional code of ethics.
Beyond that, come on, it's conspiracy. My God, it's so fucking obvious.
They seal off the entire area, nobody touches anything, they move it to a secure location, and they reconstruct an aircraft.
Normally, when you have a structural failure, you carefully go through the debris field, looking at each item, photographing every beam as it collapsed and every column where it is in the ground, and you pick them up very carefully and you look at each element. We were unable to do that in the case of Tower 7.
You can't do science when you are deprived of the evidence and when your hypothesis is the least valid instead of the most likely. When the most likely hypothesis in the case of Building 7 wasn't even mentioned. This is not science. It's trying to prove preconceived ideas.
World Trade Center 7, Part 3. A federal investigation that ignored the facts.
Was a proper investigation performed that might have revealed the use of accelerants or explosives in World Trade Center 7's destruction?
NIST concedes that they found no evidence for explosives. So then we asked them, well, did you look? And they said, no, we did not look for explosives or residues of explosives.
The American Society of Civil Engineers was brought into this investigation early on. They did a very superficial investigation of the site. They issued a report without any significant forensic examination.
National Fire Protection Association Guide number 921 calls for saving the evidence and being prepared to justify why you wouldn't. It also calls for testing for accelerants and explosives when high-order damage is involved. NIST did not do this.
The minimum explosive charge, the 9 pounds, required to fail critical column IE-79 would have produced a pressure wave that could have broken windows in the north and east, resulted in a sound level of 130 to 140 decibels, which is the equivalent sound to a gunshot blast. There were no witness reports of such a loud noise.
There were all kinds of firefighters and civilians that were reporting explosions.
You heard explosions, like boom. It's like a distinct sound. It's not like when the compression, like boom, 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 like floors that were dropping and collapsing. This was a boom, and like you felt a rumble in the ground, like almost like you wanted to grab onto something.
Big explosion. Blew us back into the 8th floor. Okay, all right? Here, no. You want to call your mother or something?
Just the fact that there were explosions means they need to be investigated.
Ladies and gentlemen, there were cars on the ground level that were on fire. Cars that were on fire.
We have overwhelming overwhelming evidence that there were some explosive events. The manual gets into thermite, and if it says if you have melted steel or concrete, which we had on 9/11, and there's videos of it, and people can see it, we should test for it. It says when you have melted steel or concrete, you test for thermite. So the fact that they're not testing for it is crazy.
Keep your eye on that building as they coming down.
Building's about to blow up. Going back. We are looking back. There's a building about to blow up.
We had 3,000, Americans murdered, and we had the first 3 high-rise and steel collapses. We have all these reports of explosions. We have the history of terrorists using explosives. It's absolutely ridiculous that there's no excuse for it. It's criminal, in my opinion. The national standards are very clear. We have preservation of evidence. We have spoliation of evidence. There's all kinds of, basically, standards that you don't destroy evidence. We don't have the
to
real
protect the people, we the people. But they again ignored the laws. Ladies and gentlemen, part 4. Fully engulfed in fire? Really?
World Trade Center 7 collapsed because of fires fueled by office furnishings. It did not collapse because of fuel oil fires.
Really? Furnishings brought down the building.
By the New York Times, engineers were baffled by the collapse of Building 7. Since no steel frame high-rise has ever completely collapsed due to fire, how are we to understand this mysterious event?
High-rise buildings simply do not collapse due to fire. There has never been until 9/11 an experience where a high-rise building that was steel frame completely collapsed. There have been fires burned longer in similar structures without any collapse.
In this test, done by British Steel in 1995, a large amount of typical office furniture was burned to see what would happen to the heavy steel beams that supported the ceiling.
It's not that it melts in a fire. In fact, normal fires are not hot enough to melt steel. Even if you were, for example, to use an unusual fuel like kerosene, you cannot achieve temperatures hot enough to melt steel. But what happens is it starts to lose its strength. And as it loses its strength, it starts to sag.
This was the largest test of its kind ever conducted. It showed how unprotected steel can be distorted, even by a normal office fire. But as is typical in steel buildings, the structural beams only slowly and progressively warped and sagged. There was no chance of a sudden collapse.
In my previous career as a firefighter, normally you'd never be afraid to go into a Type 1 building because they're not combustible, and you would just charge at it and put the fire out. Never in my training were we ever taught that these type of buildings could just collapse in on themselves. There's definitely much more going on than just fire.
The World Trade Center 7 building reminds me of the Meridian Bank building in some ways in Philadelphia. The Meridian Bank building is a 38-story skyscraper that burned for 18 hours in 1991, suffered extensive damage from the fire, but did not collapse.
NIST tells us that this collapse mechanism, starting with thermal expansion, that worked its way upward and outward through the building, in a matter of seconds, there's not enough time for the building to collapse the way that NIST tells us it collapsed.
NIST claims the fires were very large, very hot, and long-lasting, when in reality, observation, which has been researched by many people, shows these fires did not last very long. They were not in the locations where NIST claims they were at given times.
I'm a fellow of the American Institute of Architects. For the 40-plus years that I've been practicing architecture, I have designed a variety of buildings from small houses to high-rise office buildings. Some of the high-rises that I've worked on are 1 shell and 2 shell here in Houston. I was project manager for a 22-story office building in Akron, Ohio. Later in the day, when World Trade Center 7 collapsed, they had already showed us pictures of a few fires in that building, and I mean, they weren't even raging. And how could that cause a building to collapse as if it were imploded? Couldn't happen.
According to lead investigator Shyam Sunder of the National Institute for Standards and Technology, NIST, World Trade Center 7 collapsed at free-fall acceleration for more than 100 feet of its fall. What does the speed of the collapse reveal to us?
Essentially, in less than 7 seconds, Tower 7 came down upon itself.
It's just like taking your car keys out and just dropping them. That's how fast the building came down, for over 100 feet. And the only way you can get that is when there's zero resistance. And so what we're looking at is a building just coming straight down, falling right through itself with zero resistance. Buildings don't have zero resistance, which is why you feel comfortable walking into a building.
This building had 40,000 tons of structural steel in its structural system, and that is intended to keep it from going anywhere.
I'd heard people say, well, it came down at free fall or close to free fall and so forth, so I decided I'd measure it myself. I had a simple tool at the time called a physics toolkit, which allowed me to take a video and put a dot on each frame to follow the motion of things. And I realized that it's actually coming down at free fall, pretty much dead on the acceleration of gravity. Well, NIST, in their final draft, was saying that the building came down with 40% longer than free fall time.
How can such a publicly visible, easily measurable quantity be set aside?
A free fall time would be an object that has no structural components below it. There was a structural resistance that was provided in this particular case.
He was making our case for us. You can't have free fall when there's support. And in the final report, they modified it, and they actually admitted there was a period of free fall involved. But they never changed their model. Like, how do you all of a sudden allow for free fall when they just got done explaining how it couldn't have been in free fall?
A single email that you can click on. So it keeps you informed. Second,
truth isn't being told to us, then the perpetrators of that are still at large to continue to do something else again. They seem to be leaning toward there's some kind of government involved. I don't know that. It's very suspicious. If the truth isn't known, these people are at large and can continue to do what they're doing, whatever their agenda is. So in other words, it can happen again, anywhere, anytime, in some different form.
The comment is basically that this could be the prelude to something else. I will, while Architects and Engineers doesn't get into, has not yet adopted the issues of what happened in Oklahoma City and the Oklahoma City bombing. There's a new documentary that came out recently that seems very credible, called A Noble Lie, and it basically kind of points out that the story that we know about
that's a good one. It's the same
Oklahoma City
thing.
In 1995.
It's the same nonsense. Same false flag event. Same Hegelian dialectic.
Many of the investigators for the Oklahoma City bombings were also involved in the engineering and forensic reports for the World Trade Center tower. So
what a shock!
So there's something to the comment that something else is going on. I will also point out that one of the things that I ask people to do is to talk about 9/11. It's something that's typically kind of a subject people try to avoid. And if you are called a conspiracy theorist or something like that, simply say, did you know that there's nearly 2,000 architects and engineers calling for a new investigation? That's nearly 30,000 years of cumulative professional experience. Shouldn't you at least know about that? And if you want to know where the conspiracy is, it's this conspiracy of silence. And that's not something that happened 10 years ago. It's something that's ongoing now. In the media, with the exception of some of the really commendable comments that have been in the newspaper lately where architects and engineers has been mentioned, there has been a virtual blackout.
That's absolutely true.
There's all these architects and engineers saying that there's a problem.
That's right, and not only that, I try to get the press down there, register citizen, The Republican, American, no way. None of the news networks covered it. They want this to go away because guess who owns the media, ladies and gentlemen? The same criminals who perpetrated 9/11. There's my son Patrick right there.
Project for the New American Century. It was written in about 1999 and updated 6 months to a year, maybe just before the events of 9/11. And in that document it stated that the United States, it was also called, I think, Rebuilding America's Defenses or something. Well, it has all the intentions of attacking every country that's been attacked since 9/11.
That's right.
Syria, Iraq, Iran's on the list. I think Venezuela maybe.
Iran is next.
They've actually, it said in one point in that document that it would be very hard to sell a war in the Middle East to the American people without a new Pearl Harbor type incident. And incidentally, on that day of 9/11 happened, George Bush said, this is our new Pearl Harbor. And I begin to wonder, maybe there's a war going on still. That's what I like to say.
There's many wars going on, brother.
Sports are on. Our military is killing people all over the world, one country after another. I can't count how many places we are since and as a result of the lie of 9/11. I mean, it is, you know, they say God bless America, but why would he? You know.
Thank you for your comment.
We're going to take it back, brother. We're going to take it back.
What I want to point out is that the Project for a New American Century was not written by the United States government. It was by influential people, some of which who became involved in the government. But
they're called globalists.
That's a kind of another issue, I guess. There was someone else.
New World Order.
First of all, Mr. Cosley, thank you for coming out. My question, a couple I have here to deal with thermite demolition theory. Basically, how many private companies and or federal agencies, departments have access to the types of thermite that would have been needed to pull off a job like this? And, you know, how common are these materials? Are they traceable? And with the thermite theory, how much material would have been needed to complete, you know, this 3-building takedown? And you know, obviously, you know, the planning would span at least, you know, 2 administrations back into the Clinton administration, and then obviously into the Bush administration. And now, you know, with that theory in mind, you know, with the thermite demolition, you know, the immensity of the project that would have to be, you know, taken on to wire 3 buildings and to span, and now without alerting tens of thousands of people that work in these buildings. So basically, my question is basically just have to deal with the thermite, you know, and how accessible is this? Is it worldwide? You know, is there different types of thermite, or, you know, is this very rare material?
Well, first of all, certainly the ingredients are quite readily obtainable. They're iron, oxygen, and aluminum with a little bit of sulfur. Because there's evidence of that. Who has the capability of putting this together? It's probably only a handful of high-tech labs around the world.
Of course.
That can do that. So it's because this is built up from a nanoscale. Kevin Ryan, who was in the video, has actually made some nanothermite, and he shows how he does it as a chemical process where you titrate things out and stuff, and he can make some small amounts of it. But the material itself is relatively hard to make.
You're listening to Project Freedom Radio. ProjectFreedom.ws. And we the people, we will rise. I'm Howard Nema. We are Change Connecticut. And in this next segment, we're going to be going over some stuff about the Spanish-American War. So stick around. You're watching TruthBroadcastNetwork.com and listening on Project Freedom Radio. Yeah, that was an awesome awesome little segment there. I'm glad everyone got a chance to watch it. And once again, we are back and looking at a few things that are coming to mind about 9/11 was how Oklahoma City was, again, another attack, another engineering-wise made no sense. So A Noble Lie is another great film, and I'll be probably covering it on Truth Talk Night at the Movies on Truth Broadcast Night, TruthBroadcastNetwork.com. That's on Thursday evenings. I always screen some sort of truth-based film, and have so many people that have been giving me ideas for it. I probably have the rest of the year covered for Thursdays. So this week I'm showing Propaganda, a film that was recommended by Brian Staveley, and we'll all enjoy that together. And I trust his judgment, so I'm sure it's going to be an awesome piece. He really hyped it well, and I think I'm feeling good about that. Looking forward to it. Okay, moving along. Let's see. We have. Let me get this thing out here. Moving along, we have some. That's the that's the last thing. All right. Oh, yeah, UN Agenda 21. What's going on? Let's see on the front of things at truthbroadcastnetwork.com. We have the Republican National Convention PSYOP going on. How nice. Always good to see that. Okay, why does this always happen to me? Okay, sorry, I just had my thing just, I don't know, the cursor froze on me. Anyway, so we have the Republican National Convention PSYOP going on. We have, of course, 9/11. We're all pumped about that, going this year's events down in New York City, and you should come down if you can. The movement's maturing, and activists must grab the reins and take charge. No more following. I'll be down there with Harry Link, and we'll be making the trip, so we want to see you there. As someone who has been subject to arbitrary arrests, police standoffs, and yes, even a throw in the psycho ward, Brandon has now, of course, been released, thank God. We are trying to, of course, have a free speech zone, subvert the New World Order control, and publish here at truthbroadcastnetwork.com. Post results and actual web pages visible to the real world, not just Facebook, and we have the highest search engine rankings, so your posts get attention, and resulting professional pages will spread faster when posting to Facebook. Remember, posts to Facebook can only be seen from inside Facebook, but posts on this network are visible worldwide on the real internet. So please post your comments, thoughts, and information on truthbroadcastnetwork.com. And I'm very happy with Harry Link. What he's been doing with this is incredible. Again, join us on 9/11. We will be participating in events by the 9th. And this is a great opportunity for you to gain confidence in your work. If you are an activist, we always have a great time. So please come down. Now this year, of course, at the RNC, the stage is set. We got 1,700 beds waiting in the jails. Of course, my friend Adrienne Lang has been letting me know. She lives down there. Adrienne, you should get on Skype, and I'd love to have you on, especially during the broadcast time. Of course, dispute against activists and CIA front groups, PSYOPs, and all sorts of things are going on right now on that front. And this is a great website, ladies and gentlemen. Please go to truthbroadcastnetwork.com for all your truth needs. Okay, it's not Infowars.com. It is truthbroadcastnetwork.com. It's not a war of information, ladies and gentlemen. It's about the truth. Stick to the truth. And by ye fruits shall they know ye. All right, I think I got that one right. Okay, so I have been trying to explain to folks how many times we've had these false flag events that are, and these assassinations that are for political purposes. I mean, really, really blatant, and people just accept the lies. It's unbelievable. I still have a hard time believing it. But it is true, and it's difficult to deny that we are unfortunately in a situation where many of the I don't know. Best way to put it is many of the sources of information that we receive are tainted. It's not really the truth. So we strive for real truth, not, product marketing and all this other stuff. To COINTELPRO, information, lies, deceptions. No, we don't go there. So in the last hour, I'm going to be covering in this upcoming segment, the last, I guess, 45 minutes or so we have, 40 minutes we have. I'm going to be covering how the false flag events of the last 100 years have impacted society, how they have controlled the thoughts, and motivations of the populace, and of course how they have fed the New World Order military-industrial complex and the Molech sucking lifeblood sacrifices of souls, ladies and gentlemen. Many, many souls. So those that are not aware, this will be a big wake-up call, ladies and gentlemen. So stay tuned, because in just about, well, I'm going to be taking a break in a minute, but in just about 5 minutes I will be covering you some insanely important information regarding the Spanish-American War, the Federal Reserve, it's just the last 100 years plus, really. The Spanish-American War was in 1898, so it's actually 115 years or 112 years, whatever it is. Doesn't really matter. But how events have changed since then, moved forward, and how gold was so important, ladies and gentlemen, and how the globalists have been working to get us off the gold standard since long before that. Williams
You're
Jennings
listening
Bryan.
to Project Freedom Radio, ProjectFreedom.ws, and watching TruthBroadcastNetwork.com.
This motherfucker is so evil. Burn in hell, Bush. You're watching We Are Change Connecticut on truthbroadcastnetwork.com and listening on Project Freedom Radio, ProjectFreedom.ws.
UN Agenda 21, bailouts, sellouts, Lehman Brothers, Goldman Sachs, false flag terror attacks, Bill Gates, Henry Kissinger, New World Order mind control, Bank of America stealing homes with cut and paste mortgage loans, police, state, taser guns,
chemtrails,
Monsanto rules the food supply while Big Pharma dopes your mind, prison system, profiteers, foundations, fund the fears, fund the evil through the years, the world's not as it appears. CIA smuggles drugs while Wachovia and Wells Fargo launder them, then give the proceeds to the owners of the Federal Reserve Bank. Now the IRS takes money out of every single check. Money created out of thin air and leave you with debt. They want to make you a serf, a slave to their demand. They want to take your life in every way they can. Fluoride, GMO, vaccines, chemtrails, United Nations genocide. The world they show us is not real. This is how they kill and steal. Rothschild, Bundy, Rockefeller, Club of Rome. On the Georgia Guidestones it's written in stone. Cut through the matrix, awaken to the lies. Do not be hypnotized. We are one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Watch Truth Talk News Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on truthbroadcastnetwork.com. And we're back. I'm Howard Nema of We Are Change Connecticut, and my co-host Vinny Bdatruth unfortunately is not with me today, but fortunately and blessedly, if that's a word, I think it is expecting, well, actually the love of his life is expecting a child any day now. So he's with her, and my thoughts and wishes and prayers are with you as we fight the New World Order, this cog that continuously moves, powered by the worker. There's Molech right there for those watching on truthbroadcast.com, that building in the distance, Molech. Yes, there's some scenes here from Metropolis we are seeing. But I would be remiss to not mention that it's not so much the countries and these internationalists, these globalists, they see no borders. That's why they want a world government. But certain countries have more awareness than others. And I think that in America, we're at a turning point. We're at a point where we can make a real change. And look, I know Robomny is a joke and Obama is hopeless. So what is the alternative? What else do we have? What's the other factor that we can put in here? What could it be? The New World Order under the UN will reduce everything to one common denominator. The system will be made up of a single currency, single centrally financed government, single tax system, single language, single political system, Single world of justice, single state of religion. Each person will have a registered number, without which he will not be able to buy or sell. And there will be one universal world religion. That's the New World Order. This is what we fight against. This is what I fight against. I feel sometimes, when I look at it in perspective, and even my own conceptualizations of the control, and knowing what I know, having read what I've read, the information, a lot of times I speak and it's like, people might not understand because again, I've read a lot of work and a lot of books, and they might not have the insight into some of the subjects that I touch on, but for the most part, we have this correlation between false flag events and war. How's that for a start? Now, the trial run for interventionism is a piece that's written by James Perloff, which was in the New American, which is the John Birch Society. Again, I'll plug them. I'm a member and activist for John Birch. Restore this constitutional government, get rid of this Stasi communist, I forgot to mention I spoke to Barbara Hartwell today, and I forgot to mention that they're instituting a charter school in Torrington where they set everything your needs. So yeah, whatever your child's best in, he'll be able to choose what's good for him. Oh yes, it's loving and wonderful. If only that were true. Anyway, the trial run for interventionism means that the U.S. Secretary of State John Hay, who was again really another one of these people that were insiders. I think that there is a lot to be said for the McKinley assassination. McKinley, again, was a proponent of gold, and they were trying to move away from gold and bring in a Federal Reserve, and he was against that. Had more of a Jacksonian type trait. Well, that would not do, so he was killed. But let's not forget Garfield, who was killed by a nut, Charles Guiteau, who was easily, because of his come on. The man was incessant. He kept going to the White House. In those days, you could just walk into the White House and say, I want to talk to the president, and he's busy today. Well, something like that. But he would go in there, and he thought because he had helped to get Garfield elected, that he deserved an ambassadorship, if you could believe that. And he did. He kept going there, trying and trying and trying. Finally, he was told to leave, and supposedly that's why he went back there and shot McKinley. Not McKinley, shot, he shot Garfield at the train station on July 4th, I believe it was, in 1898. Then again, they shot McKinley and moved forward with Teddy Roosevelt, interestingly enough, who was basically a made person through an agent of the Rothschilds. Well said, well put. It's all verifiable and recordable. Look it up. again, I'm researching my brain about this era. This is really where I've done most of my research. And McKinley really did want what we want now, what the Liberty people in the Liberty community wanted. And he was, he was a threat. And it's funny how the threat really never changes. It's always the same damn thing. But the economy was on a rise, and industrialism was really rolling 100 years ago, actually 120 years, 115 years ago. And it was good times. They called it the Roaring 20s in the 1920s, but they called it the Gay 90s, whatever that means. Everyone was having a good time. In those days, gay meant good time. And there's a lot to that. And growth was going well, the industry was going well, everyone was doing well. The collectivists keep gnawing at you, though. They keep sucking off you like a vampire, sucking your life's blood. And again, I'm talking about this piece, this trial for interventionalism, and I'm going to read from it, and it's written by James Perloff. It's recent. It's this month's John Birch Society publication. And the U.S. Secretary of State John Hay, who again I think conspired to kill, he was one of the conspirators to kill McKinley, called the Spanish-American War of 1898 a splendid little war, because it worked so well, and it was splendid because we got so many islands and possessions and did nothing. It was a false flag event. Superficially, the description seemed apt. After the battleship Maine mysteriously exploded in Havana Harbor, an incident then blamed on Spain, America went to war. Our citizens urged to free Cuba from Spanish rule, as well as avenge the Maine. Largely a naval war, an American squadron under Commodore George Dewey destroyed the Spanish squadron at Manila. Likewise, the U.S. Navy crushed Spain's Caribbean squadron off Cuba's port of Santiago. In each engagement, the United States suffered only one fatality. Things went tougher for American troops in Cuba, where malaria and yellow fever proved daunting as Spanish bullets. But American schoolchildren would thereafter thrill to tales of Teddy Roosevelt and his Rough Riders, and of the famed charge up San Juan Hill. Yeah, that was the yellow journalism going on there. And again, William Randolph Hearst plays a big role in moving the information and the so-called glamorization, or we call it Madison Avenue Slick Willie now. But back then, they were, the newspapers were really the force in getting people and using cartoons and such of that nature. It was absolutely certain that these images were shown as Teddy Roosevelt was proclaimed as the environmentalist, the powerful person for the people and the voice of the people, and he had some flaws, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, he did set up some good things, but in retrospect, the globalists through the United Nations have taken away most of our forests, and all of these national parks are now controlled by the United Nations, or if you don't know that, have been deeded to them. It's sick to say, but absolutely true. But going back, Cuba, the background to a battle in the 19th century, the late 19th century, citizens were increasingly alarmed that monopolistic New York banking interests, does this sound familiar, by the way? Represented by such names as Morgan, Rockefeller, Harriman, Carnegie, and Rothschild, were gaining a stranglehold on our economy. Really? You think that they went away? I think these people just have to shut their mouths and let us continue to rape and pillage. Well, this did help inspire the 1891, establishment of the Populist Party, which again was controlled and they loved to do it that way, those brawny motherfuckers. Okay. It was a grassroots movement of dissatisfied voters who perceived increasingly fewer differences between the Democratic and Republican parties, many of whose bosses were beholden to the bankers. Okay, this is the truth, okay? Understand, both of these parties are controlled by criminals, these same criminals, okay, that they're fighting against. They're attacking each other. The truth of the matter is that 100 years ago, it's the same thing, and now it's the Tea Party. They're using the same ploy, but they're controlling the Tea Party like they control these parties. But many of these people understand now individually, and that's the only way we can do this is individually, to understand our individual rights and that these parties are bullshit. Are you going to vote for either of these criminals? Obama or Romney? Come on. They're going to lead us down the same path of destruction. We need real change. Something that's truly honest and wants to do difference. Like Gary Johnson. I'm a Gary Johnson supporter, okay? Ron Paul, I mean, everybody, he was an ideology. I mean, he's an idealist. He's the one that gave everybody's attention to it. But in the end, he doesn't somehow want to get involved in what would be an amazing, incredible ticket. Gary Johnson. Ron Paul, Gary Johnson under Libertarian would be absolutely magnificent, and we would win some liberty. We would. They couldn't cook the books that much, ladies and gentlemen, because there's your purpose. But no, you have the establishment hacks doing their shit. Same as it was 100 years ago, as I'm reading right to you right now, with the establishment of the Populist Party 100 plus years ago. So the Wall Street cabal, they realized that to thwart populism at the time, just like they're doing now, it would be expedient to remove attention from themselves by inflaming Americans with hatred of another enemy. So they chose Spain, and like we choose the, in this case, the terrorists, or in this case, you're talking about Muslims or whatever, how you want to put it. So they did this, and the way they accomplished this was by using yellow journalism. Now, Thomas Jefferson said in 1807 that nothing can be believed in 1807. Okay? Listen to this. So this is what I'm trying to say. First of all, look to the past and remember the past and what's occurred, or you're condemned to relive that. I mean, you're condemned to repeat it. That is the truth. But also look to the past to see the truth from the flaws in history. But no one does this. There are more important things to do, like watching football and American Idol and, Better Homes and Gardens and all this other bullshit that people are trying to sort of entertain themselves and to distract themselves when they're not laboring for some slave-esque job. And then the government says that we have this problem. The terrorists have attacked, and they're going to hurt us. The war is coming, and you must give up your rights and your liberties because we are fearing this enemy, and this new threat, global warming, this new threat. There is no greater tyranny than that which is perpetrated under the shield of law and in the name of justice. Montesquieu. And that's true. And this is what they do. Yellow journalism. So Thomas Jefferson in 1807 stated, nothing can now be believed, which is seen in a newspaper. Truth itself becomes suspicious by being put into that polluted vehicle. The real extent of this state of misinformation is known only to those who are in situations to confront facts within their knowledge with the lies of the day. Regrettably, Jefferson's sentiments were little heeded in the 1890s, and a new media rogue had arrived, William Randolph Hearst, whose name became synonymous with yellow journalism, or dishonest journalism, or, tabloid journalism. The Star and the World, and and all of these nutty papers. That's where that all came from. You could thank Willie Randolph Hearst. Anyway, so in 1895, the wealthy Hearst purchased the New York Journal and battled Joseph Pulitzer's New York World to achieve the nation's highest circulation. Hearst won, of course, learning that in journalism, lies can become truths for the right price. But he and Pulitzer shared a common goal: war with Spain over Cuba. Americans were told that Cuba's rebels were like our Revolutionary War soldiers, men yearning for self-government, while genuine patriots were among the Cuban insurgents. Their leaders, Maximo Gomez, was a Dominican-born revolutionary who could be compared to Fidel Castro, not George Washington. But of course, this is what they want you to believe, ladies and gentlemen. You understand? Things as they have been are the same. The deceptions are the same. And again, look to the past to remember and to understand and to move forward. Because if we don't understand the past, how can we plan for the future? Change the future. Anyway, Gomez avoided confronting Spanish troops, whom he could not hope to defeat, of course. Instead, he launched terrorism. Does this sound familiar? Attempting to expel the Spanish economically, he set ablaze millions of sugarcane fields, making the island a virtual torch, sort of like what happened with when Saddam Hussein burned the oil fields in '91, if those of you remember that, and they burned for months and months. They just play from the same book. The playbook is the same. They stole all available cattle and horses, and they harvested and seized all the farmers' crops, much like the bandits in the film The Seven Samurai and The Magnificent Seven. Gomez also seized the farmers' sons, forcing them into his ranks. Within his army, he was feared as ruthless and dictatorial, meting out with death penalty by machete to soldiers without due process. Of course he did. As a result, rural Cubans fled to fortified towns, but there was little work for them because Gomez had torched all their crops, and of course he couldn't steal because famine began in Cuba. So Hearst Journal and Pulitzer's World reported none of this truth. But of course, they did include the starvation, which they blamed on the Spaniards, who were trying their best to feed the population under this devastating situation. Hearst and Pulitzer both claimed the problem was Cuba's Spanish governor, General Valeriano Weyler, ordering concentration of citizenry into fortified towns. The accusation had a grain of truth. Weyler was sent to Cuba because of the leniency of his predecessor, Arsenio Martinez Campos, who had emboldened the revolutionaries. Since Gomez refused to fight in the open, Weyler decided to turn the tables and cut him off from his sources of food and recruits. Weiler discovered that many Cubans still outside the fortified towns were Gomez sympathizers, acting as suppliers or spies. Weiler ordered them into the towns. This compounded the famine, but didn't start it. The yellow press called him Butcher Whalen, endlessly in inventing atrocities such as the Spanish roasting Catholic priests. Of course, that never happened. On October 6, 1896, Hearst Journal carried this headline: Cubans fed to sharks. Cries heard at night. They are taken outside the harbor, and the silent ferryman comes back alone. A Pulitzer world raided a hospital. More than 40 sick and wounded Cubans butchered, but no hospital even existed in the region in the world that the world described. Hearst discovered that tales of atrocity against women struck a special chord with readers. So in December 1896, his journal blared, butchered 300 Cuban women, defenseless prisoners shot down by Spanish soldiers. It's unbelievable, the history and what happened. And then everyone forgets about it. They learn about it, they teach it for a couple of generations, and it gets dropped in the consciousness because of everything that's going on current. And then current becomes like now retro. And then after retro becomes old age. Or oldies. Like the music, you know? It's like, isn't that true? It's incredible how things haven't changed in all these years. Now, this is a tremendous article, and everybody should really subscribe to the New American. This is coming from the New American from August 20th issue, 2012. Everyone really, I mean, it's an amazing information. It has a lot of insight into what's really going on and the agenda against our rights and freedoms. And if you care about this, this is why you should join the John Birch Society, jbs.org. And they'll probably attack me for now being a John Birch person, like they attacked me for being against neo-Nazis in the Truth Movement. So I'm sorry. You know, fuck you. I love to be able to say that because I have a freedom of speech. I will protect it. And if you talk against it, I will defend my right. Interestingly enough, we have this this thing going on here. Like, look at how it was. Like, what they wanted people to believe. The monkey here. First of all, they always make the Spaniards, again, they're trying to make them as animals, you know. So the Spaniards are monkeys, and they killed the soldiers in the Maine. I'm trying to show you a good shot of it. Let's get it. There we go. And it's like like they're covered with blood. Maine soldiers murdered by Spain. And this is the kind of stuff that they were showing. Disgusting. And you have the mangled remnants of the battleship Maine. Now, what happened to the Maine turns out to be interesting because it did, of course, bring about the war, and we destroyed them and took over many property, many territories, so we profited quite well by it. But who sank it? The original Naval Court of Inquiry, headed by Captain William Sampson, concluded that the Maine sank when a mine detonated caused the ship's forward magazines to explode. The Court of Inquiry was based on this eyewitness testimony of 2 explosions, as well as inward bending of the part of the hull. However, it did not fix responsibility for the mine. So it said what happened to it, how it happened, but where did the mine come from? Well, we don't know where the mine came from. The Spanish wanted to undertake a joint investigation with the United States, and then when they refused, they conducted their own inquiry, which did attribute the explosions to a fire in a coal bunker adjacent to the Maine's ammunition stores. They cited lack of evidence for things normally seen in mine detonations, such as a column of water, dead fish, and etc. So the truth is that there was something inside, but they said a mine sounds better, so let's just say that. So the actual Court of Inquiry ended up stating that it was, in essence, you know, it was a mine because that's good because we can go to war because it was a mine, but it was probably an internal fuck-up and some asshole had this boiler going too hot, the burner going too hot by the munitions, and the munitions blew up. That's really probably the truth. Because these people didn't want a war with us. All we did was just gave us an excuse to steal profits, to steal from them and take from them. And I mean, I grew up loving America and Davy Crockett and all that stuff, and used to play that when I was a kid. Now kids don't even play that. They play all these new agey bullshit, games. If they play it all away from the computer and go outside, they will go out and play these. They're not playing like we did. It's just different. I don't know. That's all I can say about things today in 2012 as opposed to, say, 25, 35, 45 years ago even. 40 years ago, whatever, 30 years ago. But the false flags stay the same. They continue. It just goes on and on. They never really affect the people enough. The people don't care. They're too wound up in their bullshit and their own problems. Well, that's our little 2-minute warning. So, I want to thank everybody for tuning in here on TruthBroadcastNetwork.com and, of course, Project Freedom Radio, ProjectFreedom.ws. And thank you all for joining me and spending your time with me. I hope some of the information that I gave you was important. I would look into the what happened to the Maine. It's certainly a important thing. It ties into the fact that we have the problem with 9/11. It ties into the fact that we had Pearl Harbor. It ties into the Depression even. These things are all false flag events. Designed to consolidate power for this criminal cartel who is intent upon destroying our nation as we know it, taking away our rights, bringing in a totalitarian government, a new world order. And it is up to us to defend our rights, our liberties, or we shall be enslaved. Either be a slave or be a free human being. I want to thank Harry Link on TruthBroadcastNetwork.com. I want to thank Bobby K on ProjectFreedomRadio.com. .ws. Actually, it's ProjectFreedom.ws. Project Freedom Radio. I want to thank Pam Suggs from UnitedTruthSeekers.com. I want to thank all of you. God bless you. I'll see you next week, 5 to 8 p.m. here on TruthBroadcastNetwork.com. And, of course, We Are Change Connecticut, Saturdays, 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Project Freedom Radio, ProjectFreedom.ws, and TruthBroadcastNetwork.com. I'm Howard Nema. See you next week. We are Change Connecticut, 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on truthbroadcastnetwork.com and Project Freedom Radio.